Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different, but I think it's going to be incredibly useful for you. You've sent in some really interesting stuff. A TOEFL writing prompt, a sample response, and the actual official TOEFL scoring standards.
Right, the official rubric.
Exactly. So think of us today as, well, your personal TOEFL examiners, maybe.
Something like that.
Our mission is really to get under the hood of how these essays actually get evaluated, give you that kind of insider perspective.
Precisely. And, while the topic itself is affordable housing, which is, of course, a huge issue globally, our main goal today is understanding the mechanics.
Right.
How a response to this kind of academic writing task is, well, graded, assessed.
Okay.
And this isn't just about the TOEFL, is it? The principles here, they're pretty fundamental for strong writing anywhere, academic or even professional setting.
Totally. It's about making a clear, persuasive argument.
Exactly. Knowing what makes it well supported.
Okay, so let's dive into this prompt then. It sets up a very real problem. Shortage of affordable housing. Lots of countries facing this. Then it asks you, the writer, to zoom in. Think about this problem specifically in your country.
Right. That localization aspect.
Yeah. And the main task is suggest the single most effective thing the government could do. And, crucially, explain why you think it's the most effective.
That why is key.
Definitely. And we even have a couple of initial ideas mentioned in the source material, like maybe building big, affordable apartment blocks in cities, or maybe government subsidies to build smaller, single-family houses outside cities. Just examples of potential angles.
And looking at this like an examiner, what strikes me immediately is how specific the prompt is. It's not just, what do you think about housing?
No, much more focused.
Right. It demands you identify the problem in context. Your country propose a government solution, and then critically justify it. Logically.
Okay.
And that immediately brings up the first big scoring point from the standards. Task fulfillment.
Task fulfillment. Right.
Did the writer actually answer all parts of the question clearly? Completely. That's like the first hurdle.
Makes sense. You have to do what was asked.
Pretty much.
Okay, so then we have this sample essay that one of you shared with us. This writer, they focus on the affordable housing crunch in big cities.
A common focus.
And they seem to blame it, partly anyway, on government offices and big businesses all being clustered in the city centers. Creates high demand, limited space.
Okay, so they've identified a cause, at least in their view.
Yeah. And then they propose two potential solutions. First, using 3D printing tech. Build faster, cheaper housing.
Interesting. Modern approach.
And second, maybe integrating housing units into existing public buildings, like add apartments onto a library or something.
Okay, so two distinct ideas there.
Right. So now let's put on those examiner hats you mentioned.
Okay, hats on.
And analyze this response using those official TOEFL standards. Let's start where you started. Task fulfillment.
Right. Task fulfillment. So does this writer tackle the prompt? Well, yes, they definitely identify a problem, lack of affordable housing in cities.
Okay.
They offer two solutions that are, plausibly government-driven, promoting 3D printing construction, integrating housing into public assets.
Seemed like it.
Now, they don't explicitly say, in my country, X, but focusing on the big city issue, which is common globally, is probably a fair way to interpret the your country part.
Okay, so it's acceptable, even if not super specific about the country.
Often, yes, especially if the problem is widespread like urban housing shortages. And they do give some reasons, speed and cost for 3D printing, maybe better land use for the public building idea. So they've addressed the core components.
Got it. So check mark, more or less, for task fulfillment.
I'd say so, yeah. They've engaged with the main parts of the prompt.
Okay, criteria number 2, organization and coherence. What are we looking for here as examiners? What makes it flow well?
Yeah, good question. We're looking for a clear logical structure. Does the essay start with the problem, then move sensibly to the solutions?
Like a path.
Exactly. Is it easy to follow the connections between the ideas? In the sample, the writer starts with the problem, mentions that centralization factor, then uses really clear signposts like first and second for their solutions.
Those transition words.
Yep. And they wrap up with in short, which gives a little summary. So that suggests pretty good organization. Things seem connected.
Coherent. So the structure helps the reader, the examiner, follow the argument.
Absolutely. Think of each paragraph ideally supporting that main solution you propose. It's not just for TOEFL. That's just good persuasive writing.
Yeah.
Law, business, science reports, structure is foundational.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, Third area, language use. This is vocabulary, grammar, sentence structure, right? What's being evaluated?
Exactly. We're looking at, well, two things, mainly. The range of language, vocabulary, sentence types, and the accuracy. Is it used correctly? In this sample, we see words like affordable places to live, city center, construction, public buildings, city planning. That's appropriate vocabulary for the topic.
Seems right.
And the sentences are mostly clear, easy to understand. It doesn't use maybe super complex or varied structures all the time, but the language works. It gets the ideas across without confusion.
So it doesn't have to be incredibly fancy, just clear and correct.
That's a big part of it. The rubric for a good score, a 4, mentions good control of vocabulary and grammar and says meaning is clear. This sample seems to fit that pretty well. Like, they use centralization of government offices.
Yeah.
That's precise. Better than just saying stuff is in the city.
Right, adds a more academic feel.
Exactly. But, just dropping in big words randomly doesn't help if they aren't used right or don't fit. Clarity is paramount.
Good point. Precision over just complexity. And last one, mechanics. Spelling, punctuation, the nuts and bolts. We only have an excerpt, so it's hard to judge fully, but how important is this generally?
Well, a few small slips in spelling or punctuation. Usually, okay, even for top scores, like a 5 and excellent, if they don't make it hard to understand.
5.
But if there's a pattern of errors, lots of mistakes, it definitely brings down the overall quality. And worse, if the errors actually obscure the meaning, well, that hurts everything. Clarity, task fulfillment, language use.
So it can have a ripple effect if it's bad enough.
It absolutely can. Proofreading matters.
Right. So putting it all together, task fulfillment, organization, language use, mechanics. If we had to place this sample on that scale, very weak up to excellent, where might it land?
Based on this analysis, wearing my examiner hat, I'd probably put this in the good range, a solid 4, maybe pushing towards excellent, a 5.
Okay. What makes it good and what might hold it back from excellent?
It's good because it does address the task, proposes reasonable solutions, it's well organized with those clear transitions, and the language is clear and mostly accurate.
Makes sense.
To get potentially higher into that excellent band, the writer could perhaps add more specific examples or details, maybe link it a bit more concretely to their specific country's housing situation, if they have one in mind.
Adding more specific support.
Exactly. Strengthens the justification. But as it stands, it's a solid piece of writing. Shows they understood the prompt and could structure a response.
It's really interesting how these criteria connect, isn't it? Like, you could have great ideas, but if the organization is messy or the language is unclear, it drags the whole thing down.
Totally. And that's the big takeaway, really. These criteria aren't just some weird TOEFL thing.
Right.
Think about any report you read for work or any academic paper. Do they answer the main question? Is it logically laid out? Is the language clear and precise?
Yeah, same principles apply everywhere.
Exactly. So when we talk about logical flow, what does that mean practically? Is it just transition words?
Good question. Is it just sticking in furthermore?
Well, that helps, but it's more fundamental. It's like building a case, right? Intro sets up your solution. Each paragraph gives a piece of evidence or reasoning, ideally starting with a clear topic sentence.
Okay, like a mini headline for the paragraph's point.
Perfect analogy. And transition words like furthermore, however, therefore, are the signposts guiding the reader, the examiner, through your argument.
Okay, so if my essay is well organized with those clear topic sentences, how does that help the language use part? Does structure make clarity easier?
Oh, absolutely. A logical structure gives you a framework. It helps you organize your thoughts. And when your thoughts are organized, it's much easier to express them clearly and precisely.
Less chance of getting tangled up in confusing sentences.
Exactly. You're less likely to ramble or use vague words because you know what point you're trying to make in that specific section. Structure supports clarity.
Okay, so for you, our listener, let's boil down the key takeaways from looking at this TOEFL stuff. First, really read the prompt. Understand every single piece of it and make sure your essay answers all of it. Don't miss anything.
Crucial, number 1.
Second, structure matters a lot. Organize your ideas logically. Use transitions to help the reader follow along smoothly. Think about that path.
Clear path.
Third, language. Yes, show off vocabulary and grammar if you can, but clarity and accuracy come first. Don't sacrifice understanding for fancy words.
Couldn't agree more.
Clear is king. And finally, mechanics. Those little errors in spelling and punctuation, they can add up. proofread.
Definitely take that extra minute or two. It can make a difference.
So connecting this back to the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think the important thing to consider is how this basic skill set, defining a problem clearly, proposing solutions with good reasons, using logical arguments, clear language, how that applies outside the test.
In your own field, your own work.
Exactly. Whatever challenges you face, whatever you're working on, the analytical skills tested here in TOEFL writing, they are super transferable, really valuable everywhere.
So looking closely at this task helps us see those broader principles of just effective communication and thinking.
That's it. It's not just about the test score. It illuminates how to build a strong, convincing case for anything, really.
That is such an important point. So maybe the final thought for you is, think about that connection. How can you apply these principles? Clear problem definition, well-supported solutions, effective communication to the issues you're dealing with right now in your studies or your job. It's really about building those essential skills for tackling complex stuff in the real world.
Well said.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us